Have you ever wondered what happens when a celebrity you thought you knew disappears from the spotlight without a word? That's exactly what happened with Keith Urban after weeks of silence. Following his shocking split from Nicole Kidman, the country music superstar finally returned to social media, but not in the way anyone expected. No statement, no dramatic post, just a clip. A clip so playful, so seemingly innocent that it left fans reeling. And yet, if you look closer, there's more to it than meets the eye. Keith's absence online had been absolute. From September 30th, the day Nicole filed for divorce after nearly 2 decades of marriage, there wasn't a single post from him. No glimpses of his life on tour, no snapshots of family moments, nothing. For someone who has shared so much of his journey with fans over the years, the silence was deafening. Social media, after all, is where modern celebrities live, breathe, and communicate with the world, and Keith went dark. It was the kind of silence that sparks speculation, fuels rumors, and keeps tabloids busy for weeks. Was he heartbroken? Was he angry? Or was he simply taking the time to regroup? Then, over the weekend, everything changed. Keith resurfaced, sharing a clip from his new reality show. The Road, a show where 12 emerging country stars compete to open for him on his U.S. tour, but it wasn't a dramatic promo or an emotional statement. No, it was funny, nostalgic, lighthearted. In the clip, Keith and Blake Shelton, his longtime friend and fellow country star, laughed about their old hairstyles, some of which, they admitted, were questionable, to say the least. Fans were immediately drawn in. Here was Keith Urban, not hiding, not performing, but joking, teasing, and showing a human side that had been absent for weeks. And yet, beneath the laughs, there was an undercurrent of truth. Keith's return wasn't just about humor. It was a first glimpse into his state of mind after the split. A subtle acknowledgement of his life being upended, of a world where fame, love, and career collide. It was playful on the surface, but there was tension underneath, a story unfolding before our eyes, hinting at struggles, resilience, and perhaps a side of Keith we haven't seen in years. So what was really going on behind the scenes? Why did he choose this moment to return? And what does this clip reveal about his life post-divorce? In this video, we're going to break it all down, from the emotional truths to the humorous glimpses, and the little details that hint at a far bigger story. The news hit like a thunderclap. On September 30th, 2025, Nicole Kidman officially filed for divorce from Keith Urban, ending a marriage that had lasted almost 2 decades. 19 years together, 2 children, countless red carpet moments, and a partnership that seemed unshakable. Gone. Fans around the world were stunned. How could a couple that appeared so stable and private reach a breaking point without warning? The truth, as sources revealed, was far more complex than any headline could capture. The official reason listed was irreconcilable differences, a phrase so simple yet so loaded. It hints at deep, unresolvable issues, things that neither love nor fame could repair. And when you look at the couple's lives, it becomes easier to understand. Nicole Kidman's schedule has been relentless, with back-to-back film projects demanding her presence across the globe. Meanwhile, Keith Urban's life has been nothing short of a whirlwind. Tours, late-night rehearsals, studio sessions, and appearances left little room for downtime, or for each other. In the end, their busy careers didn't just create distance. They eroded the intimacy that holds a marriage. Together, even friends and insiders expressed surprise, noting that Keith and Nicole always seemed like a power couple in Hollywood. They laughed together at events, posed for magazine covers, and appeared completely in sync on public outings. But as is often the case, appearances can be deceiving. What the cameras never captured were the long nights of missed calls, canceled dinners, and lonely hours on tour buses or hotel rooms. Sources say the constant tension and absence of connection eventually led to frustration, resentment, and a sense of disconnect neither could ignore. The divorce isn't just about emotions, it's about logistics too. Reports indicate that Nicole will have primary custody of their children, while Keith's time will be more limited. For fans, this adds another layer of heartbreak. Seeing 2 people who built a life, together now navigating separation, not just as partners but as co-parents. It's a reminder that even the most glamorous lives come with real, challenges, and emotional tolls. And yet, even in this moment of upheaval, both Keith and Nicole have maintained a level of grace. There were no public arguments, no dramatic statements. Instead, the news was delivered quietly, almost surgically, precise, factual, and leaving the rest to speculation. The world could only watch and wonder what went wrong. Was this avoidable, or was it simply the inevitable result of two extraordinary lives colliding in ways that love alone couldn't sustain? In the next section, we'll dive into how both of them began living separate lives post-divorce, and how the first glimpses of Keith's new reality began to paint a picture that's equal parts vulnerability and resilience. The story is just beginning, and it's far from what anyone expected. After the shock of the divorce announcement, both Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman began navigating life on completely separate paths, and fans couldn't help but notice the contrast. Nicole, always the epitome of elegance and composure, made her first public appearance after the split at Paris Fashion Week. The red carpet was her stage once again, and the headlines quickly picked up on a subtle change. A fresh haircut, a new wardrobe, and an air of quiet confidence. It was as if she was signaling to the world that, despite the emotional turbulence, she was moving forward with poise. Fans dubbed it her breakup glow, a term that perfectly captured the mix of strength and vulnerability radiating from the Hollywood icon. Meanwhile, Keith Urban's post-divorce life was more public in a different way. He hit the road almost immediately, performing for fans across the United States. During one of his early shows following the news, fans noticed something unusual: the absence of his wedding ring. Every movement, every gesture on stage seemed to carry new weight, and the media immediately speculated. Was this a sign that he was embracing a fresh chapter, or simply a practical decision on tour? Either way, the subtle detail added to the tension, fueling discussions online and in fan circles. The contrast between the two was striking. Nicole appeared controlled, almost serene, while Keith's world was chaotic, full of travel, performances, and long nights away from home. Yet both were coping in their own ways. Nicole leaned into work and public appearances, using her art and professionalism as an anchor. Keith immersed himself in music and mentoring emerging talent through his new reality show, The Road. Even in laughter and camaraderie with fellow country star Blake Shelton, there were glimpses of a man trying to navigate both personal heartbreak and the demands of fame. And still, the human element shines through. Despite the glitz, the cameras, and the headlines, both Keith and Nicole were dealing with the same raw emotions any couple would face after a long-term separation: loneliness, loss, and the challenge of redefining their identities outside the framework of marriage. While fans debated every detail, the reality was that this period of adjustment was deeply personal, unseen, and far more nuanced than any tabloid report could capture. By observing their separate journeys, we start to see a bigger picture emerge, a story of resilience, adaptation, and subtle yet powerful shifts in their lives. It's a chapter full of contrasts: public glamour versus private struggle, laughter versus heartache, movement versus stillness. And it's precisely this tension that makes the next part of the story, Keith's return to social media, so compelling. Then, after weeks of silence that had fans and media buzzing, Keith Urban finally broke his social media blackout. But it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a statement about the divorce, his emotions, or his new chapter. Instead, he posted a clip from his reality show, The Road, and the timing couldn't have been more intriguing. After disappearing from the digital world for months, this sudden reappearance was playful, lighthearted, and unexpectedly human. Yet it carried an undercurrent of meaning that fans quickly picked up on. The post wasn't just a tease for the show. It was a reminder that Keith Urban is more than the headlines, more than a celebrity couple in the public eye. In the clip, he and Blake Shelton, his longtime friend and country music confidant, reflect on their early days in Nashville, laughing at old photos and hairstyles that, in hindsight, were questionable at best. Shelton jokes about their awkward phases, and Keith joins in, poking fun at his own long blonde hair, admitting he had no idea what the hell was going on back then. It was a moment of vulnerability wrapped in humor, a side of Keith we rarely see, and one that immediately humanized him after the divorce headlines. But this post was more than nostalgia or a lighthearted laugh. Social media is modern celebrity currency, and by returning in this way, Keith carefully controlled the narrative. He wasn't making a statement about the divorce. He wasn't showing anger or heartbreak. Instead, he reminded fans of who he is: a performer, a mentor, a storyteller. He reintroduced himself without words, letting action and personality speak louder than any formal announcement could. The reaction was instant. Comments flooded in, praising Keith's humor and resilience, while also subtly speculating on his post-divorce state of mind. Fans dissected every smile, every laugh, every glance in the clip. Was this a distraction, a coping mechanism, or a sign that Keith was already embracing a new chapter of life? The ambiguity only added to the intrigue, keeping viewers hooked and sparking conversations that continue even today. By choosing a clip from The Road, a show focused on the challenges and triumphs of up-and-coming country artists, Keith aligned himself with the themes of growth, perseverance, and mentorship. It's a clever move. He entertains, he teases, and he reminds fans of his career's foundation, without ever directly addressing the divorce. But beneath the surface of this playful clip lies a subtle truth. Keith Urban is navigating his world carefully, balancing humor, vulnerability, and ambition in a way that keeps fans watching and guessing. One of the most captivating parts of Keith Urban's social media return wasn't just the announcement itself. It was the playful, self-deprecating humor he shared. In the clip from The Road, Keith and Blake Shelton dive into a side of their past that feels refreshingly human. Their early days in Nashville, and more specifically their hairstyles. Yes, the hair. And not just any hair, we're talking long blonde locks, questionable cuts, and looks that, in hindsight, are downright cringeworthy. Blake Shelton starts it off laughing. "You and I have both been in Nashville since the 90s, and we went through some awkward phases." That alone set the tone. Candid, funny, and relatable. Keith jumps in, reflecting on his own youthful experiments with hair and fashion. "Well, that's what I looked like when I first got here," he says, grinning. "I couldn't for the life of me figure out why I couldn't get signed. And I didn't know what the hell was going on with my hair." Fans instantly connected. Here was Keith Urban, a global superstar, poking fun at himself, exposing a vulnerable human side that rarely makes it to public view. What makes this segment so engaging is the balance of humor and nostalgia. Viewers aren't just laughing. They're transported back in time, imagining a younger Keith and Blake navigating the unpredictable Nashville scene, full of hopes, awkward style choices, and a relentless drive to succeed. It's a glimpse behind the curtain, and it reminds fans that even icons like Keith Urban had moments of uncertainty, mistakes, and moments that now seem comically absurd. But there's more than just laughs here. Humor has a way of softening the edges of a narrative, especially when the surrounding story involves heartbreak, divorce, and personal struggle. By sharing these lighthearted moments, Keith creates a bridge between his public persona and his private reality. He's signaling to fans, yes, life is messy, careers are chaotic, and relationships can be painful, but there's still room for laughter, reflection, and connection. This section also subtly highlights Keith's resilience. He's able to look back at awkward phases, laugh at himself, and still maintain the confidence and poise that define his career. For viewers, this is both entertaining and inspiring. It's the kind of storytelling that keeps people watching. Humor intertwined with humanity, vulnerability balanced by charm, and nostalgia used as a way to deepen connection, rather than just evoke sentimentality. By the end of this segment, viewers aren't just laughing, they're invested, curious about the next reveal, and eager to follow Keith Urban's journey as it unfolds, blending personal reflection, career highs, and the human stories behind the headlines. While Keith Urban's playful clips and nostalgic jokes captured attention online, the real story lies in his new reality show, The Road, premiering on CBS and Paramount Plus on October 19th. The show isn't just another talent competition. It's a high-stakes, emotionally charged journey that reveals the grueling realities of life on the road as a musician. For fans of Keith, it's an intimate glimpse into the world he's lived in for decades, filled with long nights, endless travel, and the relentless pursuit of success. The premise is simple yet intense. 12 emerging country music. Artists compete for the opportunity to open for Keith on his U.S. tour. But behind the scenes, the challenges go far beyond performing. Contestants experience early mornings on the road, rigorous rehearsal schedules, and the emotional roller coaster of competing against peers who are just as talented and ambitious. Every moment is a test, not just of musical ability, but of resilience, endurance, and determination. Keith, along with co-host Blake Shelton, guides these young stars through the chaos, offering mentorship while also observing the pressures that shaped him into the superstar he is today. What makes The Road especially compelling is the way it blends performance with raw reality. The cameras don't just capture the polished shows on stage, they follow the contestants into buses, dressing rooms, and quiet moments where doubt, fear, and exhaustion creep in. Keith himself participates in these moments of reflection, sharing personal stories from his early days in Nashville and the hardships he faced while climbing the ranks of country music. It's both inspiring and relatable. Behind-the-scenes look at the highs and lows of a life most people only see. Through glitzy performances and award shows, fans quickly noticed that the show doesn't shy away from the truth. Keith opens up candidly about the sacrifices required to succeed, admitting that touring can be lonely, exhausting, and isolating. It's a rare moment of vulnerability for someone who usually exudes confidence on stage. The tension of balancing mentorship, performance, and personal struggles creates a narrative that keeps viewers glued to the screen, section after section, wondering how the contestants, and Keith himself, will navigate the challenges ahead. In many ways, The Road mirrors Keith's real life. It's a story of ambition, endurance, and emotional transparency, set against the backdrop of fame and fan expectation. For viewers, it's not just entertainment. It's a masterclass in human resilience and the complexities of living a life dedicated to art. And as the show unfolds, fans can't help but wonder how much of Keith's own journey, including the heartbreak of his recent divorce, subtly informs the lessons he imparts and the energy he brings to the stage. Amid the humor, nostalgia, and high-energy performances, The Road delivers something unexpected: Keith Urban's raw, unfiltered emotional honesty. In one of the first episodes, he steps out from behind the stage, lights, and opens up about life on tour in a way fans rarely hear. It's not about music, fame, or flashy awards. It's about the toll the road takes on a person, on a husband, and on a father. Keith describes waking up at 3:30 in the morning on a tour bus, sick, exhausted, and alone. He talks about missing family and friends, about playing his fifth show of the night while feeling completely drained. When you wake up on a tour bus at 3:30 in the morning, and you're sick as a dog and you haven't slept, and you're missing your friends and your family, and you're completely lonely and miserable, you ask yourself, "Why am I doing this?" he says. And then comes the answer that's both haunting and inspiring. Because this is what I was born to do. It's the kind of honesty that catches viewers off guard. Keith, who usually shines with charm, confidence, and energy on stage, shows vulnerability, doubt, and fatigue. It's a side rarely seen, a reminder that behind the fame and success lies a human being dealing with the immense pressures of life, love, and work. For fans watching, it's both relatable and heartbreaking. A glimpse of the isolation and sacrifice that accompany even the most glamorous careers. This candidness becomes even more poignant when you consider the timing. Weeks before the show aired, Keith's marriage to Nicole Kidman ended, leaving him navigating not only the physical demands of touring but the emotional weight of a major life change. The loneliness he describes isn't just the road itself. It's the life he's been thrust into post-divorce, full of uncertainty, reflection, and the challenge of redefining his identity. Yet even in his vulnerability, there's resilience. Keith doesn't dwell in despair. He frames the hardships as part of his calling, something that gives meaning to the exhaustion, the heartbreak, and the loneliness. For viewers, this segment of The Road is both inspiring and compelling. It keeps you hooked, wanting to see not only who will win the competition, but also how Keith himself is navigating the intersections of fame, personal loss, and passion for music. By the end of this section, it's clear Keith's story isn't just about music. It's about endurance, self-discovery, and the quiet battles behind the stage lights. And for fans watching, it's impossible to look away. Even with all the laughter, nostalgia, and candid reflections, there's no escaping the elephant in the room. Keith Urban's divorce from Nicole Kidman. Fans, media, and even casual observers are left asking the same questions. How is he really coping? And what does this new chapter mean for his personal and professional life? The answers aren't simple, and Keith himself remains careful, revealing just enough to keep people engaged, but never giving the full picture. Rumors and speculation have inevitably surfaced. Sources close to the couple suggest that Keith may already be moving on, while others highlight that both he and Nicole are focused on carving independent lives post-divorce. Fans have dissected his lyrics, especially on songs featured in The Road, for hints of emotional subtext. Lines about escaping a soul-sucking routine and struggling to maintain balance resonate deeply when you consider the timing, the end of a 19-year marriage, and the pressures of a demanding career. It's impossible to ignore the parallels between the words he sings and the life he's navigating behind the scenes. Social media reactions add another layer. Every post, every clip, and even every smile is analyzed. Keith's playful banter with Blake Shelton isn't just entertaining, it's also strategic. It reminds fans of his charm, creativity, and humor, while subtly signaling resilience and adaptability. There's a careful dance here. He's transparent enough to feel relatable, yet controlled enough to maintain the mystique that keeps audiences intrigued. And then there's the emotional weight. Behind the jokes and performances is a man who has faced loneliness, exhaustion, and heartbreak. The road is both literal and metaphorical, a path that reflects the highs and lows of fame, love, and ambition. Watching Keith navigate it all invites empathy, curiosity, and a sense of investment in his journey. Viewers aren't just watching a reality show. They're witnessing the evolution of a human being whose life has changed dramatically in a short period. Ultimately, Keith Urban's return to social media, his candid moments on the road, and the public fallout from his divorce create a story that is as much about personal resilience as it is about celebrity. Fans are left with more questions than answers, but that's precisely what keeps them watching. The tension between vulnerability and control, heartbreak and humor, the public and the private. Keith's journey isn't just unfolding on stage or online, it's unfolding in real life. And every clip, lyric, and candid confession hints that this is far from the final chapter. What happens next? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. Keith Urban has reminded the world that even in heartbreak, there's humor, there's resilience, and there's a story worth watching every step of the way.